If you don't know yet, last weekend Sorcerer Battlegrounds updated, bringing in a lot of new moves and something for everyone with the game modes. With a bit more on the way and the recent leaks looking promising, it looked like nothing could possibly go wrong. I mean, hell, this update even had a bunch of quality of life stuff, like changing the front dash. Wait, they changed the front dash? So how is it possible that something this small could sway a part of the community this much? And this small little change in reality was something really positive compared to before. But why was this front dash so important? Simply put, there was this quote-unquote tech that people did to get in more right clicks. First, I will explain how the front dash works. If you dash at someone from afar, you get a free combo in. If you dash too close, they will get knocked away. Simple, right? Well, not quite. What people figured out is that the knockback from the forward dash stunned the enemy slightly. Not only that, but it also didn't push them very far. So people started using this to get more hits in. But removing a couple of M1s from a combo doesn't sound that bad, right? Well, no. Before, classes like Toji and Yuda were able to get you to around 30% HP without even ragdolling you. And well, if you didn't have the ragdoll cancel, you were cooked. But if everyone was using this dash tech, then why remove it? That's the thing, not everyone was using it. This was something you either had to look up on YouTube or Google, or get taught by some other player. And that's the thing, that was the only way you could even find out about this, besides getting helplessly one-shot. To anyone with common sense, if you need to look up something to not get completely outdamaged, that's stupid. One thing I saw mentioned is that this separates the good and bad players. In a numbers game like D&D, sure, numbers matter. In a game like Sorcerer Battlegrounds where a lot more factors in like movement and game sense and much more, no, absolutely not. If you think a fight should be decided by who hits who first to do the near one-shot combo, you are dumb. Regardless of that, to even justify having a near one-shot combo in the game for any character is just plain dumb. But this isn't the first time this has happened. A few months back there was an update that was one-to-one the exact same. Back then there was also some dash tech, but it was way easier to do. And back then these same people threatened to quit the game. Guess what? These same people kept playing and have stayed around since. Besides, removing BS near one-shot combos should be a plus. Now fights aren't just decided by who hits who first. Sure, even now that does affect the outcome of the fight, but if you're smart with your movement and how you play, you can still win. But is the backlash completely without reason? No, not completely. The dash tech had been there for so long that so many people had learned it over time, even some casual players. So, if anything, we should be mad at the developers for not removing it earlier. Jokes aside, we do need to talk about the update and some things that could be improved by a lot. First and foremost, the new game modes. Don't get me wrong, the game modes are honestly a lot of fun. But a lot of the time I couldn't tell if someone was a friend or a foe in specifically team matches. So if you're playing team deathmatch for example, it's more like a free-for-all. So honestly, they could simply add no friendly damage in the game and that will solve it. One more thing to talk about with the game modes is the NPC and the UI. If you're a new player and load into a lobby, you will not be able to tell where the new game modes are, so you'll be left out on a lot of fun. So upon loading in, you could either add some sort of waypoint or like an arrow that follows you around to the NPC. Also the UI is objectively confusing. I might just be old and not understand, but there's so much going on the UI and it honestly just confuses me. I was also gonna suggest the addition of some tasks for early access, since previously the game was so character focused that people without Robux, they just had to wait. But with the game modes, if they really mainstream it, then they simply update that while people wait for something new. As for the bunny mouses are coming this week, probably, I would love to see them in the main game. From what I understand, they will only be within the game modes, which initially will be cool, but adding some form of obtainment in the main game would be sick. I've also talked about this with other people, specifically about bosses and quests, and some people seem to dislike that idea since it isn't Battlegrounds anymore. But you tell me, what do you think? Should the game focus on stuff outside of early access like the recent game modes, or should they just stick to the old formula? I also recently put up a poll asking about this update and people were surprisingly positive. And when I called it controversial, people were confused. And most of the comments were positive aside from the people upset about the nerfs, specifically Toji. I personally don't really care about it all that much, but I don't see why they just couldn't have lowered the damage instead of just removing M1s. And for some reason, even when Megumin was heavily nerfed, people still wanted to be nerfed even more, which would be a really bad idea. As it stands, it's not in the meta and isn't completely weak either. Besides the slower M1s than most classes, it's fine, honestly. I will also cover the added moves quickly, but I'll go over them more in depth in the next video. Let's start with the one to get the most impactful change, that is Megumin. He only had one move added, but it was a domain expansion. Why is this a big deal? Simply put, it is the first domain to be added in months. It does have some minor issues, like the fact it's an open barrier and not a closed barrier domain, but besides that, it's sick. But now let's talk about the character to get the most added. Mahito had his soul touch change to soul tendrils, and this looks so damn cool. Not only that, but Mahito has an awakening now. The actual awakening animation, it's okay, but what I am more impressed with is the new awakening moves. First is Soul Punisher. It's a dash move that does a beatdown. It just looks overall amazing, and the sound effects, they are pretty good too. The second move is Impeccable Defense. First you dash forward and just turn yourself into a ball of spikes, dealing a decent amount of damage. Overall, most of these moves are expected, but the best is yet to come. But now let's move on to the conclusion and talk about the drama queens who hate this so much. To my understanding, most of the people who hated this update were clan members. On the European side, it doesn't seem to be that bad, but recently the American clans, they have been quitting due to the game quote unquote dying. I think it's mostly due to the dash change, but whatever the reason may be, I can't wait to see them coming back in about a month. One other thing this update has achieved is to bring out the people with massive superiority complexes. Like the guy from earlier, saying how it sets apart good and bad players. And if you really need to feel better about yourself by ruining other people's fun with stupidly high combos, leave, just swap games, dude. As for the intro of this video, yeah, it's a callback to my first ever video where I covered the exact same topic. And as what to expect from this Outlash, well, if times change but people don't, then expect absolutely nothing. They will eventually come back at one point or another, and of course, don't go harassing any individuals mentioned in this video, because I have already cooked them enough. But with that, I will see you in the next one.